Hi, I'm Will Townsend, Vice President and Principal Analyst for Networking and Security at Moor Insights Strategy. And joining me today is Nav Singh. He's the VP of Marketing for Network Security at Palo Alto Networks. Nav, how's it going?
Great. Great to be here, Will.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to our conversation. And we're going to talk about Intersect. And this was your virtual event that occurred this summer. And I attended and shared some insights over Twitter. I've also published a blog, and so we will provide a link to that at the end of this video. But I want to jump into it. There were 4 best practice sessions that the company focused on. The first was around building a complete zero trust foundation for network security. And from my perspective, this is where a lot of organizations falter. There's a lot of misinformation in the industry around zero trust, whitewashing, and that sort of thing. So I'd love to get your perspective on how Palo Alto Networks views this.
Yeah, absolutely, Will. So the concept of zero trust is very simple, but it has been difficult to implement, like you said. And just to understand that, maybe we take an example. So take an example of a couple of employees. Let's say Jane, who is in marketing, Joe, who is in engineering, and till several years ago, they always used to be in the office when they had to access applications. The applications they accessed were HR, CRM application, payroll application that were mainly in the data center. So they were granted access to those applications because of the fact that they were in the office. They got access based on implicit trust. Mm-hmm. So as we moved into the pandemic and now it's hybrid, right? Jane works in field marketing almost all the time outside. And then Joe, being in engineering, works 3 days a week here, Mondays and Fridays works from home. So the organizations want to really provide access securely to these users and their devices, but it can't be based on implicit trust. That's why the concept of zero trust was born. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, vendors and organizations have interpreted it to mean that it's based on true authentication and your role. So that's the principle of least privilege access control. That's how the industry in many cases has defined it. We at Palo Alto Networks believe that there are actually 3 principles. Least privilege access control is just one of them. In addition, there is another principle, which is continuous trust verification. So let's say if Jane gets hacked and her laptop is infected, with continuous trust verification, that should be detected and the access should be blocked. Third major principle is continuous security inspection. So all the benign traffic should be allowed, but if there is an attacker, malicious traffic originating, then that access should be blocked, right? So those 3 principles really allow you to have complete zero trust. One is least privilege access control, 2 is continuous trust verification, and 3 is continuous security inspection.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think where a lot of confusion kind of results is from the notion of authenticating users to applications versus flatly to a network, right? And that's sort of a great segue to the second best practice session, where the company really spoke to the hybrid workforce. And you're right, post pandemic we are hybrid in the way that we work. A lot of companies are mandating a few days in the office, to your point, some days at home. And that really presents network operators with huge challenges, right? Because those networks that they have to secure and connect are highly, highly distributed. So how does Palo Alto Networks, view that in relation to, hybrid work and the traditional branch and zero trust?
Yeah, and as hybrid work was happening, and this was even before the pandemic, right? The concept of SASE was born, or Secure Access Service Edge. So that's where we believe the security and networking functions should actually be brought from the corporate headquarters and data centers to where the users are. Mm-hmm. In some cases, they are mobile. And in other cases, they could be in the branch office. So networking and security, which is brought closer to where the users are, and they could be anywhere in the world, right? So security and networking should be brought closer. That's the concept of SASE. And we offer a SASE solution which can secure users, which is mobile users,
Yeah.
and provide SD-WAN, secure SD-WAN to the branch offices. So that's where, again, if you just take a look at, let's say, a coffee chain, a retail branch, or a bank with multiple offices, all of those scenarios, you want exceptional user experience for all the users who are there, whether they are bank employees or the guests that are coming into the branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also want to provide security against the most sophisticated threats, and you want to do it in an easy way. And that's what our SASE offers, and Intersect sessions are a great way to learn what we do and how we do it.
And I love your approach because, initially when this whole notion of SD-WAN and converged security came together, some of the initial solutions did not scale. I mean, they cost effectively scaled for the traditional branch, but not for the new micro branch, right? When we all were faced with having to work from home. And what I really like about Palo Alto Networks is that you figured out a way to make that highly scalable, but also highly affordable. And talking about the convergence of network and security, it's happening. I mean, not only with SASE, but just you're seeing that in general happening. And from my perspective, that's allowing customers to do more with less and manage the complexity of both NetOps and SecOps together. And which is also a great segue to discussing the third best practice session, which was around securing the hybrid cloud with complete zero trust. And so, today it's a multi-domain, multi-tenant environment. Lots of enterprises are embracing the cloud for its scale, for its resilience, for its operational expense savings and that sort of thing. But that becomes a pretty challenging endeavor when you look at, many enterprises are multi-cloud, right, or hybrid cloud. And again, talking about that threat surface, when you have on-premise and cloud put together, it creates some pretty unique challenges. But I know Palo Alto Networks is very focused on this, and would love to get your insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, let me tell you my story. So I'm a single dad. I have a middle schooler who is 13 years old, a daughter. I cook for her, but I can't do it every day. So she orders food from an application, right? From fast food chain, which is organic and green and all of that. Yeah. So I want that application to be up at all times as a customer. The vendor that's providing that application also wants it to be up at all times. Yeah. That application is hosted in the cloud. But the problem is the same adversaries and the same attacks that used to happen in the data center, the same attacks are happening in the cloud because the data is in the cloud.
Right.
And many years ago when I used to talk to customers, they thought that just because the application is in the cloud, it's safe. Right. Today, organizations know that because of the shared responsibility model, the responsibility for securing the application and the data is actually with the customer. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think it's really important for customers to have a way to get the same sophisticated security in a software environment, in a software form factor. And that's what Palo Alto Networks provides. So we've had a very successful next generation firewall with sophisticated network security, preventing the latest threats. A lot of our customers use the same capabilities in the cloud to protect their applications. And they tell us that their world is going to be multi-cloud and hybrid. Right. So they want consistent security across multiple clouds. They want consistent security between on-prem and cloud because some applications are not moving to the cloud. And that's what, the kind of simplicity that customers can get with our solutions. And again, the Intersect session is a great session to really learn what specific capabilities we offer and how we enable that simplicity while offering sophisticated security.
Simplicity is huge, the Nirvana single pane of glass. And, I've, during the sessions, I really learned more about what you're doing there. And, from my perspective, you're truly hitting the mark when it comes to that. But, it's also about visibility, right? So when you're spreading your security and your networking across cloud and on-prem, that tends to create blind spots as well, right? So what I do like about your solution as well is that it helps address, that visibility issue. But the fourth session, and at Intersect was quite interesting from my perspective, because it really addressed one of the biggest challenges, and it's around securing endpoints. And nowadays, we have, connectivity and security concerns within the carpeted areas of the enterprise, so IT use cases, but now a growing connectivity is occurring in operational technology environments. And this is around machine to machine. This is leveraging IoT sensors to do, predictive maintenance and that sort of thing, and really get the most productivity out of, a manufacturing environment. And I know that Palo Alto Networks is being very prescriptive with respect to IoT security. So I'd love if you could go into a little more detail about what you're doing there, and then what you're doing in general to ensure that every connected device meets that zero trust criteria.
Right. And I love the way you described it. You mentioned carpeted area, right? That's what many of our customers, many of the organizations that I talk to, they talk about how IT environments are secure. And now the attention is turning to the OT environments. So just to give everybody a little bit of a flavor of what we mean by OT environments, let's say we take the example of a water treatment plant, right? So I'm amazed at the number of sensors and the types of sensors that are in utility companies. A water treatment plant has a pH sensor to measure how alkaline or acidic the water is. It has a turbidity sensor to see how clear the water is, water pressure level indicator, and so on, which are all really vital. They are really required to perform functions, and it actually makes water consumable. So it's actually something that goes down. It's not only an operational disruption, it could also cost lives. So now adversaries have found that these connected devices could potentially be a weak link into the infrastructure, right? So that's why you see the government's talking about zero trust architecture in critical infrastructure. And that's what, what we've recognized that need. So all the visibility and policies that we offer on the IT environment, we're now bringing to the OT environment as well. But we're doing it in a very custom way. We, for example, offer visibility into the OT types of devices, the patch levels of those devices, because in many cases, they are unpatched. And in many cases, IT admins don't know what policies to set on those OT devices. They don't know the pH sensor should be talking to what servers. So we actually recommend policies based on all the learning that we have from multiple deployments with customers, as well as the learning data that we gather from all of these different types of devices. So again, that Intersect session would be awesome for customers to understand and learn how they can have a very simple approach where they can secure their IT environment and also their OT environment, keeping in mind that these two environments are actually different and have different types of devices and different types of needs.
And when you look at some of the use cases that you're focused on, you're focused on manufacturing, you're focused on healthcare, and because one size does not fit all. And yes, you've got machine connectivity and IoT sensors, but I really like the prescriptive approach that you're taking by vertical. And I assume that you're learning lessons from your current customers, you're blueprinting that, and you're sharing those best practices, right, to drive even more improved outcomes over time. Any final thoughts on that point?
I think that you said it perfectly, that one size doesn't fit all, especially in these verticalized situations, because just the types of machines are different. The types of attacks they are exposed to could potentially be different. Their patching levels, their vulnerabilities are different. And in many cases, the administrators who access these devices have different use cases. As an example, in healthcare, many of our customers, they say they want to see the utilization of medical devices because they want to increase the utilization. These are very expensive devices. On the other hand, manufacturing and OT environments have different use cases because these are plant managers. They are concerned about safety and security of their environment, and they want something that is non-disruptive because uptime is really, really critical. So I think those are the fundamental guiding principles that we used when building this solution. And again, Intersect would be a great session for our customers to learn more about this.
Well, Nav, it's been a great conversation, and you've mentioned the different sessions. We've talked about the 4 best practice sessions. You can, if you didn't catch the virtual event earlier this year, it is all available for on-demand viewing. So we encourage you to do that, and we also encourage you to read my blog. And I attended the event, and I provide some insights into Intersect and these 4 sessions that Nav and I have spoken about. But Nav, I want to thank you again for your time. It's been a great conversation.